comment. I just wanted to restate some of the public comment procedures before we begin. You may speak only when you're recognized, no speaking out of turn, no back and forth between attendees. Comments must be directed toward the front. Questions must be directed to the supervisors, and they may or may not be answered. Okay, public comment. Somebody's got to have something.
Just a quick question on roads. Starting to get some potholes on Barney Road that are getting pretty bad from the Barney Farm up to Lakefront Road.
We're gonna be patching them. I'm hoping to do it this week if the weather cooperates. We've got a couple roads that we've got to be doing, and we're gonna be doing some. I think later in the summer we're gonna be doing some ditch work on the road also.
Thank you.
I want to express my concerns about a WPX well site that's being built, the McGeorge site, which is above Laurel Lake, and it's above about 3,500 feet from our home. So I'm concerned about any water impacts, because they already have water impacts in Franklin Township from wells that are near WPX, and which is under investigation right now by the DEP. And I'm concerned because they also have violations of defective casings on the Depew well and the Holenbeck well when they built them. And so now we have high methane and other contaminants in 4 homes. And another emission stack was just put in 2 days ago in front of the country store Heavenly Angels on 29. So now we have 4 homes with emission stacks, and they're between 2 wells within 4,000 miles or so, 4,000 feet, sorry, of WPX wells, and they are now in our town.
Those occurred in Franklin Township?
Those are in Franklin Township, which is a neighboring township. Now WPX is in our town, and they're 3,500 feet from our home, 2,500 feet from other homes above the lake. 22 people on our lake have contracted to get their water tested. We're concerned about the lake being impacted, our water wells being impacted. What are you going to do about this? How can we save ourselves from defective well casings, contamination that WPX already has a record of, and they have about 20 pages of violations. If you go on the DEP site, you can look it up yourself, 20 pages of violations on their sites so far in this county. And I'm concerned that they're here. What are we going to do as citizens here to protect ourselves? That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thanks for letting me speak. A couple things. I'm going to leave that with you. During the installation of the laser pipeline across my property, it took a lot longer there than they thought. It was supposed to take 2 weeks, it took 2.5 months. They ran into a little bit of problems between the flooding, and then they had a lot of problems, but there's a lot of erosion and sediment getting in the creek, so I called the DEP up on my property, including one time when they dumped about 100,000 gallons of liquid of unknown origin on my property. They set up a straining site up on my large 115-acre property. It was outside of the scope of the 60-foot right-of-way, and they proceeded to drive about 25,000-gallon trucks up there. And view of my forester up there dumped 25,000-gallon loads over 3 days right down the side of my property. They were straining out what they call the, I've got it here, but it's basically the silicate gel. So I got concerned and called the DEP up on my property 4 times because of not only that dumping, but other erosion and sediment issues. They went up all 4 times, came back down, came to my house, or called me and said, no problem. I said, really? So I called the EPA, they came to my property, they found it different. They said even dumping clear water out of 5,000-gallon trucks on my property outside the scope of their right-of-way was a violation. Then Fish and Boat I called them over to have them take a second look at it. They told me, we had the floods, so a lot of the creeks are muddy, no problem. You know, we see a lot of this. I said, but it's going a lot longer than I thought it would. They went up. They gave them 48 hours notice. Fix the erosion and sediment issues, or we shut you down from your installation. That's the difference between the DEP coming up 4 times one-time fish and boat. I'm gonna leave you a copy of the 5 criminal charges that the Fish and Boat Commission filed against Laser for their installation. Charged them $20,000 and they gave me a copy of the check also. Most disturbing in that conversation with the gentleman that called me was that besides that, they said, oh, DEP is settling with Laser right now as we speak too. So I called DEP. Remember what I said earlier, that there was no problem on my property? I'm gonna leave you 20 pages that they sent me of issues. Violations of all types, all along the area, all in Silver Lake Township. So I'm trying to figure out, council, you know, I wanna believe this is gonna be great for us, because I've got property like everybody else does too, and most of us all sign leases. But I'm just going on their behavior. I'm very intimately involved in what's happening 2 miles from my house in Franklin Forks. They're blaming it on Salt Springs Park, and there's migration. Did you know that 4 months ago, DEP and WPX did methane analysis on the methane? They have yet to release that analysis, even though it only takes a couple weeks to determine if that's biogenic or thermogenic. I would like to have you guys protect us by demanding the isotopic analysis to find out whether that gas is from Salt Springs Park, like you're saying, which is swamp gas, or that that's production gas. I already talked to the gentleman from Duke, Tom Dara, just this week. He says they blueprinted it in Salt Springs Park as production gas. There's only one driller in a 2-mile radius of that park. That's WPX. I don't want to pick on WPX, but what I'm saying is, I'm looking at reality instead of the hype. The hype is, we didn't do this. They've answered 3 things. It's swamp gas that migrated over somehow, right around the same time with multiple families there. Okay, that's an issue for me. Number 2, it's the floods caused it. Come on. Okay, fine. Multiple wells failed in the floods. Number 3, the main focus they're trying to say is the pit adapter in one well. That would be fine with me, except for there's multiple wells that had the problems. So blaming one pit adapter at one well doesn't answer the question on the rest. And they went months. This happened December 6th of 2011. And the good neighbors showed up 3.5 months later to do something about it. Now, if they're gonna be good neighbors here for us in Silver Lake Township, and somebody raises their hand with a problem, I don't know about you guys, but I don't wanna be crucified for raising my hand to warn my other neighbors that I had disturbance on my water, whether it's discoloration or whatever. I'm not kidding you. When you raise your hand, I mean, they started Franklin Citizens for Truth over there, telling the people on 29 are lying. Okay, that'll work that out later. But a good neighbor, if they wanna come to our township and they wanna come to my property, anybody in here, I would hope they would say the same thing. If you disturb my water, then you come and figure out what happened, and you don't start blaming on everything. I'm waiting for them to blame the Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy, because they're the only ones left that haven't been, that they said have caused this. I will not watch this township destroy each other and attack each other. I'm telling you right now, if anybody has a problem with their water, come forward and say something. Because all it does is let it keep going until it hits your house. So I'm not even saying they did anything, I'm saying it's under investigation. I've demanded from the DEP and WPX the isotopic analysis that was due 3 months ago from this. They're holding it. There is only one reason they're holding that, because if it showed it was biogenic from Salt Springs, they would have released it 30 seconds after they found it. There's only one reason to hide the information. So, all I would ask tonight is, can we ask WPX to hold the drill bits? I want everyone to get their due if they've got property and they're getting ready to get a well in. I'm not gonna stop them, that's their private property. But let's all be sane here. Why would we let something happen next door and not say a peep about it, and it comes here? Yeah, we're all gonna get rich. Well, guess what? Gas is at $2 a thousand right now, we're hovering there. It was about $12 a thousand when they started drilling 4 years ago. People were making a lot more money then. I'm asking WPX, hey, why don't you guys all wait until the price of our minerals go up? Otherwise, it's like having a gold mine and selling it for $200 an ounce, when it's worth $1,600 today. I'd rather do that. And I'll end it with this. I got my water tested 5 times. Laser did it 3 times because they were good, they were nice to do that. They did before, during when we had the problems in the creek. Remember Laurel Lake Creek, the first house down Laurel Lake Creek from under the bridge is my house, that's my backyard, it goes across the back of my property. So I had an interest in that. They got mad, I was calling them, I called them 8 times, they got mad after the second time. I said, hey, I'm not calling you about something from before, I'm calling you every time I see mud come running down the creek again from a new idea. But here's the problem I'm having too, is make sure that you get a lab analysis of your water like I did, not a spreadsheet. That's what they're handing out to people over in Dimick, is spreadsheets right now. I'm not dealing with a spreadsheet. But there's 3 from Laser. Did you know the DEP came and tested my water a month and a half ago for absolutely nothing, folks? Free. I said, wait a minute, you're testing water for free? Why didn't we know about this before? There's a lot of people around here that paid $800, $1,200 for a water analysis. If you're having drilling, well, there's a criteria. You call the DEP, they'll interview on the phone. I met the criteria. I had enough of the criteria where they came and tested my water for full scope analysis. I haven't gotten the results yet, but I'm just letting you know as as a neighbor, call up the DEP and say, come test my water. I've got drilling happening, even if it's on my property. But I appreciate it, but my question is, please, let's slow this down a second and make sure we have an answer from scientists of what happened down the street before we let them start putting drill bits here. Because if we let them drill and problems happen, it's nobody's fault but ours, folks. Nobody's fault but ours. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. Anybody else? Okay. Move on to new business. Okay. Last month we opened some bids. We're gonna consider awarding these bids tonight. Number 1, the bids for sluice pipe.
The bids for sluice pipe will be 12-inch, 15-inch, 18-inch, and 24-inch plastic cover pipe. We're gonna go with Bradco Supply on all of them, and that's all for that one.
Okay. Okay, so I can make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next one is road materials.
Okay, we're going with 2 different vendors on this one. We have our DSA, which will come from FS Lofty, and then the other 3 materials will come from Damascus Quarries, which will be number 57 stone, number 8s, and 2RC. I'll make a motion.
Let me see what we got there. Okay, that's the, so you're proposing breaking down the 57.8 RC.
57 8s and 2RC comes from Damascus.
Okay.
What about your Blackstone?
We didn't get any suitable bids for the Blackstone.
And which one did you want to go with?
DSA,
Yeah, with who?
Lopke.
Lopke, okay. All right,
I'll make a motion to accept those bids.
okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Yes. Fuel.
The gasoline unleaded, we are going to be going with Williams Oil on, and also the on-road diesel will be going with Williams Oil, and the home heating oil will be with Mirabito.
Okay, what are their prices again?
The gas delivered here is $3.38 a gallon, $3.52 for on-road diesel, $3.36 for home heating.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept those.
Okay, I will second that. All in favor?
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see.
For the fuel, is that a locked-in price, or? is
It
that-
can vary, it varies within, I think, 10 cents a rack price.
Yeah, I mean, that's when do we solicit? A month? So these bids are no more than, what, 6 weeks old by the time we receive them, so. trying to think what pump price is still pretty high.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else you guys got? Okay, guess, Evan, you were approached by representatives from WPX who would, like to, I guess, be on the agenda.
Yeah.
They want to speak, inform the community what they want to do, and answer some questions from the public.
I am Susan Oliver, I'm the Community Relations Representative.
Why don't you
for-
address everybody so everybody can hear you?
I'm Susan Oliver, I'm the Community Relations Representative for WPX Energy. And appreciate the opportunity to come in here and, you know, kind of share with you what our plans are here in the township. Just so you know, WPX Energy is an independent company that we broke away from Williams on the 1st of January. And as an independent company, we are no longer part of Williams. They're not our parent company, nothing. And we, excuse me, we have, we drill for natural gas, for oil, and for natural gas liquids. And we do that both in the United States and in Colombia and Argentina. Here in Susquehanna County and in your township in particular, we do have 3 drilling pads that are almost done. Well, 2 that are almost done, 1 that's done. One is the Malling pad that's off of Coronic, and then the McNamara pad, which is off of 167, and McGeorge, which is off of Mahoney. And those 3 pads are, one's done, which is the Malling, and the other 2 are almost done. We have new construction that we anticipate that will start. The Wheeler pad is off of Donovan Road, and that should start in about 2 weeks. And so all those permits and everything are in place. The second pad we have is the Thomas Conity pad, which the access road for that pad will be off of Arrowhead Road. And that will start in approximately 2 weeks also. The other 2 pads that will start around this summer timeframe will be the Moore pad, which has an access road off of 167, and then the Schaefer pad, which has an access road off of Tripp Lake Road. The drilling operations won't start until August, and that'll be probably towards the end of August, you know, anywhere late, middle, end of August. And that will be on the McGeorge pad off of the access road off of Mahoney. And we also have one that will start in late August, we're anticipating, which will be the Wheeler pad. But all these dates are contingent upon construction, how that progresses on the development of the pads. The rig that will come to the McGeorge pad will come from Liberty Township. So we're not drilling in the township until August timeframe. We did talk to the municipal authority about purchasing the effluent water from the sewer system. And we did do some lab testing of that water. And we don't have those results back yet because the quality of that water we have to check to make sure it's not going to contaminate anything in the drilling system. So we have to do a lab test there. And we did submit our permits to the DEP and to the SRBC, the Susquehanna River Basin Commission.
So these permits for,
To do the water withdrawal. And we
oh,
have to get their
that's for
permit
with the lagoon and with the
for
municipal
the
authority?
effluent water.
Okay.
Yes. And so we don't have the permits back yet, and that will probably take a few weeks. And the lab results, we don't have back yet either. We are currently water testing private water wells. With Act 13, which is the new law that went into effect, the Pennsylvania requirement now is that we test private water sources within 2,500 feet of our drilling bore. And so what we choose to do as a company is we test from our drilling pad, which adds a little bit more of a buffer. So we're doing water testing right now. And the requirement is that we have to finish our water testing before we drill. So that's underway, and as I mentioned, we won't be drilling until August. So I know we have received some information from folks, we talked with the municipal folks also, because we do realize there are individuals who are seasonal owners. And so we're working on contacting them also to have the opportunity to test their water if they're within that 2,500 feet buffer. You may have seen some surveying crews in the area, and the surveying that is underway is to verify property lines. And so you may see those folks around. And every once in a while, they have to put up a remote little survey sensor, because the signal with the hills and valleys and things, they have to put a little remote sensor to send their survey, to be able to complete the survey for the satellites. We will maintain the safety of the roads, even without a written agreement. I know that was something that you brought up in your minutes, so I wanted to assure you that, even without a written agreement in place, we'll still maintain the safety of the roads. And regarding Franklin Forks, I'd like to kind of tell you what's going on over there, so you're aware of what's happening. Back in December, the DEP was approached by 3 families, and the 3 families said that they had problems with their water. And so the DEP contacted us and asked us if we would come in voluntarily and do some screening, indoor air screening of these families. So we went into the homes and we did some indoor air screenings to ensure they were not in an explosive situation, and they were not. Then we didn't hear back from the DEP, and the reason why is our closest well, our closest natural gas well to these 3 water wells is over 4,000 feet away. And in the state of Pennsylvania, at the time that our wells were drilled, not with the new law, but at the time our wells were drilled was 1,000 feet. And so we did our pre-water well testing within 1,000 feet of our well sites. And because these particular water wells were over 4,000 feet away, we were not contacted by the DEP or presumed to have any responsibility for those wells. As the DEP continued their investigation, they contacted us again in March. And in March, they asked us to do some additional testing. And that's when we went in, we did additional indoor air screening. And then we also did some water testing of the 3 homes. And the testing that we did include some isotopic testing to determine where exactly was this gas coming from that they were experiencing, or what exactly it was that they were experiencing. So we did that, and then we voluntarily offered to the 3 families, without any requirement to do so, to provide potable water for them. And so we made arrangements for water tanks to be hooked up to their homes so that they would have potable water until this was resolved, a determination for a long-term solution for these families. And as I mentioned, the DEP was in charge of this investigation. Then, after we did that, and we did the air screening, we also did extend the air screening on our own to a 500-foot radius around one particular water well. There was only one water well that was experiencing some kind of an eruption of water, some water spraying out of their water well. And so we extended our screening to a 500-feet circle around that water well to see if anyone else was experiencing anything like that, or what kind of readings we were getting. And inside all the homes, we were getting 0% readings as far as any kind of methane issues for them to be concerned about. That's an explosive level of any kind. And then we took a look at any of the, doing some readings outside. And so we didn't find anything at that time that was of concern. The only wells that we did isotopic testing on were the 3 wells that the DEP told us that they were concerned about. We did get the results back, and we provided them to the DEP. This is the DEP's investigation. We also provided the results to the 3 families. The DEP has asked us to do that. And so the three families have their water test results from the isotopic testing. And the footprint of the gas, the methane that's in their water wells, is the same footprint as Salt Springs State Park. And Salt Springs State Park has a long history of methane. The methane in the park and in that area dates back to the time of the Indians and the settlers. There's documentation in the state of Pennsylvania documents dating back as far as 1930s that we have found that documents the methane and the hydrology of that area that shows. And in talking with longtime residents of Franklin Forks, talked to a fellow who's been there for 80 years and told me the history of the water in his area, which has always had methane, always had a lot of minerals and other natural additives coming from the ground because they're shallow driven wells, and even some of the deeper wells have had methane. There's other individuals there I've talked to from 15 years, 20 years, one lady 44 years. All of them tell us the same story. The folks in Franklin Forks don't drink their water. They drink bottled water, and that's their choice. And it's been like that for a long time. You know, the last gentleman I talked to, again, this past Saturday, said for 30 years he hasn't drank his water. He never has, and he doesn't intend to. That's just the nature of his water. And he just accepts that. And as far as the venting goes, the venting of the three homes, the original homes, was we vented them per the request of the DEP. And one of the wells that we vented already had a vent. The problem with that particular well was the homeowner ran over the well and broke off his vent the prior year. So his well was always vented. It wasn't anything new. The other two wells didn't have vents, but we installed those. The Heavenly Angels, they have no problem with their water as far as potability. The DEP tested their water prior to any of this happening, and right around the time this was all going on back in December, they tested their well again, their water, and there wasn't any issue. The water was deemed safe to drink and it's potable, and they do use it. And talking to the owner of the shop and to the residents of the home, they had no concern whatsoever on their water. The DEP asked us to vent their well because when we did an initial test a couple days ago, they did have some methane readings in there. With our handheld monitor, we did some, they had some methane readings. So just as a precaution, we vented their well. The homeowner is not concerned at all about it, and we are going to set up a monitor just as a precaution and as a safety measure for them and for the other three families. So we're waiting on the DEP for a final determination on what's going on, but it clearly shows that all the information that we have and all the information that we gathered in our testing mirrors the exact same information that the DEP has from their testing, and all of it shows that it's naturally occurring methane that has been in that area for a long time. The final results of the report and all that, I don't know when that's going to come out and when the DEP is going to release that. It is their investigation. We were invited in because, again, as I mentioned, our closest well is over 4,000 feet away. And so that's pretty much what's happening in Franklin Forks. We will be meeting with the DEP probably, you know, we've requested a meeting to kind of go over the results with them and talk through, you know, all the measures that we've done and kind of go from there on whatever they choose to do.
Okay. Do you mind fielding a few questions?
It's your meeting. So.
Okay, just ask first. All right, well, I'll just go through kind of by each row and get everybody a chance to ask a question. I don't want this to become a debate, a back and forth, just, so let me just go. Second row, anybody? First row's all WPX, is that correct?
No.
No, okay, do you have a question?
Landowner.
Okay,
Not at this time.
okay, anybody second row, here?
You're saying that the isotopic tests are back. I called DEP today and spoke to Mike O'Donnell, and he says no isotopic tests are back at this point. So, and you also said that the isotopic tests were given to the homeowners. I spoke to two of the homeowners, the Hadlicks and the Mannings, and they have not gotten any tests from you. So I would like to just,
Well, those are mailed out, and so, I don't know when they're gonna get them, but they were mailed out.
when were they mailed out?
I don't have the date with me, but I'll find out and get back with them.
So they have no test results at all at this point?
I'll get back with them. And regarding the DEP, I can't answer for them as to what they do or don't have, but we did provide the isotopic testing results. Now, they may not have had all of theirs back, and in order to do a thorough scientific evaluation of what's happening, you have to do comparison of apples to apples. And so they're probably waiting for all of their results to come back in also. They don't come in that quickly. The labs take anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks, depending upon their workload.
Okay.
So there could be that happening with their system also.
Okay. Anybody else on the second row there? John?
Just a quick question, coming back to the issues with roads, you indicated you maintain them to a degree of safety. What about conditions?
Well, so we have an individual on our staff, and that's what he does. He actually travels our bonded roads. And if there's potholes, if there's, you know how you get those high rises in the middle on the dirt roads, we'll blade them. And if it gets to a point where it's muddy or other issues, we do provide and put gravel down and work on maintaining those roads.
So what you really meant was condition, not necessarily just safety.
But, yeah, it's both, yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the second? Okay, third? Earl?
I was wondering if the DEP would consider assessing the people to make these frivolous claims for the charges and expenses that are being incurred by our government and by this company when they prove out to be false.
You're directing that to us or to?
To Susan or whoever.
Well, sir, I know we've spent well over $200,000 so far. And, until the DEP finalizes whatever their decisions are, Yes, sir.
In your fracking process, is there any attempt to use the Canadian system that's being experimented with as far as, avoidance of chemical intrusion into the well?
Sir, I'm not familiar with the Canadian system, but I can tell you what we do. Instead of using a biocide, which is the one item that a lot of people are most concerned about, we use ultraviolet light. And the ultraviolet light kills the bacteria. And so we don't introduce any kind of chemical additives. In the hydraulic fracturing system and process, there's over 400 chemicals that are approved for use by the DEP and the EPA, mostly the DEP here in Pennsylvania. Those 400 chemicals are not used by everybody, okay? No one is putting 400 different chemicals down a drilling hole. And the average is about 4 to 5 at the most. And the amount of additives or chemicals that are used in the hydraulic fracturing process kind of equates to an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and you throw in 10 orange ping pong balls. That's about the amount of additives that are used in the hydraulic fracturing. And not to mention that those additives are fully, what do you call it?
Withdrawn?
Dispersed.
Dispersed, yeah.
Dispersed.
But totally like dispersed throughout the water. So the millions of gallons of water that we use, it's all mixed in, all of that. So it's not concentrated either. And so we do fully divulge that. There's a lot of information out there. People say we don't tell people what's in what we use, but we do. We're required by law to provide to the DEP a material data sheet, and that tells them exactly what's being used. Now, there's a portion of that material data sheet, and based upon the different formulas that are not divulged to the public because that's considered proprietary information. But that information is available on a public website. We were the first company to participate in fracfocus.org. And on that website, you can search by well and by company to see what was used in their hydraulic fracturing. And that's on there. And everything that we use is biodegradable. So pretty much it's the same stuff that you would use in dishwashing soap or in your swimming pool is what we use in our process.
Okay. Anybody else?
quick comment there. I've seen references to the propane fracking, I think
Yes,
with
sir.
a Canadian company.
It's
Where
gas frac.
they put propane in, and I think liquid propane instead of water.
Yep.
I like water better.
Gas.
No, we don't do that, so I'm not familiar with what they're doing in Canada.
Okay, anybody else on third row?
Sir, you had your hand up?
I was gonna make the same comment.
Okay.
I
There's
had read
also-
about that myself, that was long.
There was also comment about diesel fuel, and we don't use diesel fuel in our hydraulic fracturing.
Okay. Anybody in the fourth row back there? Yep.
Yeah, first, I wanted to thank you for coming. I think this is a good thing and to keep the lines of communication open. I was wondering if you guys had any plans to drill under the lakes and how you're determining who owns the minerals under the lake.
We don't have any plans right now to drill under the lake that I am aware
None of the lakes, like Quaker, Laurel?
I would have to double check that and get back with you, but, the only lake that I'm familiar with right now that we have an agreement to drill under is Donegal Lake in Westmoreland County.
Okay.
And Donegal Lake is owned by the Fish and Boat Commission, and so we made a lease agreement with the Fish and Boat Commission to do that. In this case, I guess, whoever, is it the Lake Association that owns the lake? I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know either, and I guess
Yeah.
there would be a legal process to go through
Well,
to
yeah,
determine who owns
exactly,
the
exactly.
bottom, and you have not, as a company, gone through that legal process yet to determine?
Well, I
who
don't
owns-
know, I'll have to double check and find out. I don't have an answer to that question.
Is that something that I could follow up on? I don't expect you to get back to me, but is there a place that I could follow up on that and find out?
Well, I'll give you my card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah, I
super,
have no
thanks.
problems with that.
Okay. Yeah, one more right back to the third row, I guess.
I am wondering if the sewer authority and the water's approved for you to take it from the lagoon, how that water's gonna get out of there. And if the road that I live on, which is very close to that lagoon, is gonna be traveled and the water's gonna be pumped and my whole environment will be disturbed and disrupted.
Right. Well, first of all, we have to wait for the permit. And the permit that the DEP and the Susquehanna River Basin Commission will approve is based upon a withdrawal under drought conditions. So we anticipate under those parameters, maybe 1 truck a day. And there is an access road that
Yes.
goes to the lagoon. Yeah. And so, at that location, we will make sure that where the truck has to back in to withdraw the water is stable, so we may have to build a little bit of pad area, probably gravel kind of, to stabilize the ground. And then, we would withdraw that water, and that would be 1 truck a day is what we're anticipating.
And if
But
you're-
we don't know right now until we receive word back from the DEP and the SRBC.
And so how would I find that out if my property is right on that road, very close to that road, so that I could, I mean, that is,
If it's 1 truck a day,
yeah, oh, even 1 truck a day, if it's coming and going and making this, I see a lot of trucks coming and going up and hearing a lot of trucks, so it does concern me, and if it is, you know, adjacent to my property, I guess I would just like to be aware of that. How would I be notified?
You may want to, I'd suggest attending the municipal authority meeting. It's the
Okay.
4th Tuesday, 7:30,
Okay,
and
so,
7 o'clock, okay, sorry.
all right.
I know Julie had talked to me about it, it was probably well over a year ago that she thought it was something worth pursuing.
Fourth Tuesday?
And is it here?
we would be
Right here.
purchasing the water from your township is what it is. It's the,
Water that runs into the creek
Yeah.
when it exits the lagoons.
yeah, it's the excess water that you can't drink.
Oh, right, I can understand that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I would hope that could be potentially a win-win situation for the municipal authority and the roads.
I have a
Go ahead.
question related to her question.
Go ahead.
How, is there a way to monitor the speed of these trucks? I'm just picturing, I live closer to 167, and the speed on 167 coming from Montrose is incredible. You stop at that four-way by Murphy's Corners, these trucks are flying over that hill, which you have to stop because you can't see them coming until they're like right there. And they're really fast, so I'm picturing, if I'm afraid to cross over Murphy's Corners, a child playing around Laurel Lake, around the lagoon, is what I'm picturing, that's where it is?
Mhm.
Yes. That's very dangerous. You got tons of kids in the summertime playing, running around. They're not watching huge trucks coming and going from that area. That's really scary. Who monitors what your trucks do or don't do?
Right. And I understand your concern, and we share that same concern. We had a meeting with all of our contractors, and one of the things that we told every single one of our contractors is you will maintain below the speed limit. And if we can prove and find out that a truck driver is not doing that, then we have fired drivers on the spot. They've lost their jobs. So we ask of you, if you find that a situation, to take down the license plate number if you possibly can, and the name that's on the side of the trucks. All the trucks are marked. We've also talked to many of our contractors, and one of the things they're doing is they're putting GPS systems in their trucks. And through those systems, they can monitor the speed. And so they can validate. So if you called me and you said, hey, here's the company, here's the license, here's the time, here's the date. We can go into their GPS system, well, they'll go into their GPS system and see if that truck was there at that time and date. And they can check the speed. And they fire people too, even without us prompting it. So we asked you, please let us know, because safety is a very big concern of ours also, and we've hammered them on this.
Okay, because it's pretty scary.
Oh, yes, ma'am, exactly.
Okay, fourth row, anybody back? Craig?
Susan, thanks for being here answering the questions. First of all, I thought I heard you say that they had received the information. You're saying they mailed it.
I thought they had, but.
So DEP has
Ms. Robinson-
received it, or you mailed it to DEP? Because I called DEP last week, they didn't have any correspondence with any such related yet.
Well, we sent information to the DEP by mail, the esotopic results. And what I'm saying is they may not have their results back to do a comparison, to be able to validate, and do a sharing of all, because they did some other testing also.
And I went online too, and are you agreeing with or not agreeing that DEP there was well casing failures on the fuse and on Hollenbeck's during the drilling process? Because I can go on the site and find those. Matter of fact, I don't know if I have them on me, but maybe here it does. So did you have well casing failures at those two locations, or did you not?
No, we were not cited for failures. We had bubbling in one of the outer cement casings, which we've been monitoring with the DEP. And so that's still underway. The bubbling has reduced significantly to where you can barely tell there's any bubbles. It's like one or two just popping up. But and we're trying to capture that gas, but it's very difficult to do, or whatever it is. We don't know if it's air that's trapped in the cement process and that's making its way, or what it is. But we're working with the DEP on that.
And the last issue is I was made aware by somebody that was on one of your sites the other day in the security trailer, and for some reason my picture is in the security trailer.
That's hard to believe. Imagine that.
We're all laughing now, but I don't remember giving permission, but I don't understand what the need for a picture of me in the security trailer. So two things. If that is the case, I'd like you to remove it, because I feel that is somebody's putting my picture out to make people aware. I've never been on your well sites or never been anywhere, so if we're gonna be partners here in this area, then I'd like to make sure that I'm not being singled out. So can you check that, please, and make sure?
I'll check that.
I don't mind if they like them, I'm not that good looking, so I don't think it's in there as a pinup. So I'm hoping that it's not, to inform people, but I was told that I'm a dangerous person, so I hope that's not the case. But if you could look into it, I'd appreciate it.
I will look into that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Back row there, George.
Just two quick questions. When you do the water testing, do you also water test springs that may supply homes and ponds on property?
Well, what we do is we water test the water source. So if you're drawing directly from the spring and not a well, then we will test the spring. But then that's if you're in the 2,500 feet buffer.
Okay, but if there's other springs on the property that aren't being drawn from, do you test those as well?
I'd have to get with our environmental guys and double check that. I know the requirement in Pennsylvania is where you drink from, your water source for
Right.
drinking, but, I can ask that question.
Because I know there's several springs around which may be used as a temporary water source or whatever, drinking supply for some of the homes around.
Okay. I'll ask that question,
And my
so,
second question is the people doing the survey, I don't know if they work directly for you or whatever. It would be nice if they would let the homeowners know when they're going on their property. I've had them on my property and I approach them, they're very pleasant. They let me know what they're doing, but it would be nice, instead of seeing somebody down in the woods with some orange flags and having to go down and approach them.
mhm. Yes, sir, and they're supposed to get your permission, and I apologize if we have teams that did that, and I would definitely bring that up with our surveying team. Now, they may have permission from your neighbor and then access that property line, that, and they may not have talked to you personally, they may have talked to your neighbor, so that may be the situation, but
Well, I'm not sure
I'll
it's your
mention that.
surveyors either, are there other
Yeah.
surveyors around?
Yeah, there's other surveying going on, it's not just us,
Yeah.
but our team is supposed to be checking in with the homeowner.
Okay.
And then there are situations, sir, where sometimes a homeowner will say no, but the homeowner next to him will say yes, so you can still access that property line.
All right, Tony.
On the testing of springs, Caruso already did 3 springs that we do not use for our own domestic use. But they did test on them, because we do have cattle that are using it, and I know people alongside the road try to collect water where it runs out of the spring, and they tested all of that. So, in other words, they did cover 3 springs. So whether your company or whoever it does it, it's already being done with Caruso.
With Cruzo, okay.
Gentleman there.
Outside
Joe.
of the pad you mentioned, like Mullins, Georgian, that are in the process of being developed or done, is there gonna be more pads later on in the year, or next year, or 2 years?
Yes,
What-
sir.
What's your outlook, I guess, for how many pads you gonna get?
Well, sir, we can't, really tell you for sure, because, some of the leasing is still in negotiation, so until that's finalized, it's not public information, so we can't disclose that.
When are you gonna start the water testing for the McGeorge pad?
So we're doing that right now.
Okay.
Our guys are out there
because I
right
haven't
now.
been contacted, and I'm within the radius.
You're within 2,500 feet,
Yes.
okay? Because you had a neighbor who got tested?
I'm not aware.
Okay, well, it depends, some folks think they're inside the 2,500 feet, but when we do our satellite drawings and stuff, you may not be. But I will double check, so when we finish here, if you can give me your name and address, I can check and get back with you.
I had a quick question. You said you're talking about the trucks, and I can just see the trucks and the traffic becoming more of an issue as time goes on, especially as the weather gets warmer. You said that your contractors would have like a satellite-based system in their trucks, some of the contractors, correct? So I guess my question is, why not make it a requirement of your contractors to not only have these in every truck, but present the data to you that they're not going above the speed limit, they're not.
Yeah, our safety guy works very closely with our contractors on safety reviews and things like that, to kind of see what's going on. But as far as requiring it, in our master service agreements, we require that they abide by the laws and that they have safety as a priority. We don't require them to have a GPS system.
Well, I guess my question is, why not?
Why should we? I mean, if we ask them to abide by the law and they don't, and we are able to work with either the authorities or the township or the residents, and we can prove that they didn't, then that's grounds for them losing their job. I think that's pretty good incentive to follow the laws. and to abide by the requirements of our master service agreement.
Assuming that they get caught.
Yeah,
There's a
right.
prevention of that.
Yes, assuming that they happen to be in the right place at the right time to get charged.
Yeah, it's like anything else. I mean, assuming that you don't get caught by the cops when you speed down the road. I mean, it's the same concept.
Okay,
Anybody in the
so
back?
I guess my point is, so I mean, with the validity of anything you're saying here tonight, and again, I'm not trying to make it out to be, trying to activate on all this information, but, you know, everything that's in good faith could really be taken as, well, we didn't get caught, so we didn't get caught.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying, and the trucks are really what I'm asking about.
Right.
Because I happened to see a truck on my way here tonight
Mhm.
at Murphy's Four Corners, and I couldn't believe it. It was on the other side of the lane, right on that blind corner, and I'm like, wow. I couldn't,
the same Lopke truck that I ran.
I couldn't believe it, and I'm like, wow, there's no possible way they could have seen anybody there. If there was somebody going the other way, both doing the speed limit, 35 and 35 head-on, death, immediate. And I realize that risk takes on a certain dollar amount, but I guess my question would just be, why not take those extra precautions for the peace of mind of the community?
Okay, anybody in the back row, we're moving front to back that hadn't had a chance yet.
Okay, you measure from the wellhead to the person's well 2,500 feet?
No, 2,500 feet from the wellhead.
Okay,
You draw a circle, satellite circle, and then
okay,
the properties within that 2,500 feet. But what we do, that's the law, okay, Act 13
Okay.
requirement. What we do is from our well pad,
yeah,
we go from our four corners of our pad and draw the 2,500 feet.
because the aquifer doesn't start at the well. I mean, you don't know how far out it is.
Well, I know, but this is what I'm telling you, the state law requirement is, and that's what we do.
Paul, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just have a question about like the market price, is that altering your production schedule at all?
Yes, sir. The market price of natural gas is pretty low. You probably have seen that. As a company, we made a decision not to drill, to pause our drilling actually in Westmoreland County and in Center and Clearfield counties. And you may have noticed we only have one rig running right now in Susquehanna County. It's up in Baptist Hill Road in Liberty Township. But we do have 3 more rigs coming in. And so those 3 rigs will be here in Susquehanna County only. And we're not drilling as many wells, but it has slowed things down for many companies, actually for most of the companies. Fortunately for WPX, we drill natural gas liquids and oil. So the impact on us is not as great.
I guess that's what I'm going with, so you're shifting your focus to other regions because of the liquid gas?
Yes, sir, we're drilling liquid gas. We have liquid gas production in Colorado, and we have oil in the Bakken Shale up in the Dakotas.
Okay, well, thanks. Thanks for answering the questions and telling about what's going on here. Okay, I just want to.
Of course, it'll never placate the socialists.
Before we move on, just to add a new business, Jim, did you get those emails?
I know, I used to teach.
Check email.
Sort
Check the website, they're all posted.
They are, okay. I promised a while ago, about 2 meetings ago, I was gonna get some information on Act 13 of 2012 on the website, and I didn't get to it today. Jim's got it on there already, so go to the homepage, I guess, and you'll find a link, and there's a bunch of PDF files. They're essentially summaries. The whole act in its entirety is on there also, plus about five summaries from organizations like PSATS, the Borough Association, the Public Utility Commission, stuff like that. So, alrighty. Police report.
Evening, folks. For the month, we had 31 incidents in the township. We had 3 medicals, 1 burglar alarm, 1 animal complaint, 1 ATV stop, domestic dispute, 2 miscellaneous investigations, 2 more vehicle accidents. We assisted the fire company with a structure fire, we had 2 larceny thefts, and 17 traffic stops. The 17 traffic stops are included in the 31 incidents.
All right, thank you. Those report, Ellen?
We're working on a permit so we can spread liquid salt brine again. Our old supplier quit, and for us to get put back on the books to spread it, we have to go through DEP and fill out some paperwork, and we're working at that. Hopefully by the middle of the month, we can be using salt brine again. And we had talked about purchasing a new used plow truck from the government. I did find one, and we've got it from them. We're in the process now of getting some prices on putting the winter equipment on it. And that's about all.
I just have a question about the salt brine. What is the source of it?
It
Where do you
comes
get-
from upstate New York, DEP. There's tests done by it. It cannot be from any Marcellus formation. And once we get our permit to spread, we supply DEP with the lab results, and then they give us the okay. Yep.
All right, for permits, assessment permits, none were issued last month. Driveway permits, none, is that correct? Okay, none. Fireworks permits, none issued yet. We have 2 applications. One's from Kevin Duke on Russell Road. This is for 7/4, July 4th. And, let's see. Sign off on this one. Anybody with any questions about Duke or issues? Okay. All right, this one's for Sandy. Fireworks permit for Sandy Brink, also July 4th. Okay, any questions on that? I'll sign off on both of these here.
Hard to keep track anymore.
All right, so we're gonna copy the Kevin? Okay. Okay, which one goes together? Okay. And here's. And anything else for?
Francis, just one thing, I forgot to mention earlier, would the supervisors have any interest in approaching PennDOT about possibly doing a traffic engineering study at Murphy's Corners?
We have, when Tom Swan was here, he had done it before, I think 2 times, does that sound correct, Sandy?
Right, but with the increase in traffic, like, we used to sit there at the corner, you know, for traffic control, and it creates more problems sitting there, people get distracted, they run to the stop sign, they get scared, they gun it, whatever. So we don't sit there anymore, because it's more of a hazard for us to sit there.
I will contact him and talk to him about it, and we'll work
I mean,
it.
I'm willing to write a letter or whatever, but I know that the township has to request it, but I know there's.
They put out the signs, I mean, is it correct, I understand, that if we request, they can put out the speed sensor?
Even like, with the increase in traffic, and we're gonna see a lot more of it, if there's a flashing yellow light there or something like that, you know, I'm sure that when they do another study, they're gonna see the definite increase in traffic.
Right. Okay, we'll look into it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Well,